rising like a colossal stone ship above Lake Pichola. This is the legendary city palace. Nestled in the heart of Udaipur, India, it commands the shores of a historic desert oasis. Spanning nearly 400 years of continuous evolution, its origin dates back to 1559. How did successive rulers expand a single palace into Rajasthan's largest royal complex? Historians believe that initial work focused intensely on leveling the crest of the hill. Simple, precise geometric layouts were mapped out using long ropes and wooden markers. Immense granite boulders were systematically hauled up the slope by teams of elephants. Deep trenches were dug directly into the bedrock to ensure absolute structural stability. A resilient traditional lime and brick dust mortar served as the binding foundation. Every major corner required flawless vertical alignment to support the immense weight. Laborers filled the inner structural cavities with dense layers of stone and rubble. The massive waterfront barrier began taking shape to shield against seasonal flooding. Local artisans meticulously squared each block to guarantee perfectly flush joints. Early fortifying walls were integrated directly into the foundational plan for defense. The legendary Rai Angan courtyard marks the exact spot where the project first began. Layers of dense plaster were applied smoothly to seal out moisture from the lake. Master builders continuously refined the palace blueprint to adapt to the terrain. An intricate underground drainage system was integrated deep beneath the base. Compacting the soil and rubble layers prevented future shifting of the massive walls. By the late 16th century, a solid, immutable stone footprint covered the hill. Iron fasteners were embedded directly into the joints to reinforce the stone courses. Specially engineered masonry ramps facilitated the transit of heavy load-bearing items. With the base securely anchored, the palace walls were finally ready to touch the sky. Extensive leveling created massive stone terraces capable of supporting vast palaces. With the colossal foundation complete, the inner maze of defensive rooms began to rise. Historians believe early rooms relied on massive stone lintels rather than complex arches. Dense stone slabs were placed overhead, sealing the lower ground vaults permanently. The initial outer walls were exceptionally thick to withstand prolonged military siege. By securing the baseline structure, the builders successfully finalized the lower fort. As the structure entered its vertical phase, intricate bamboo frameworks enveloped the site. Rulers transitioned from rough granite base stones to finer, lighter local sandstone. With the structure rising safely, delicate aesthetic carvings slowly began to appear. Sturdy structural pillars were hoisted into place to form large, ventilate public halls. Each generation of Mewar rulers added distinct, elevated layers to the rising monument. Traditional interlocking stone brackets provided vital support for projecting balconies. Intentionally steep, labyrinthine staircases were integrated to confuse potential invaders. As the structure grew, builders introduced graceful arches reflecting Rajput architecture. Vast open-air terraces were paved meticulously to offer sweeping views of the kingdom. Ornamental mirrorwork was embedded into the walls to create dazzling royal chambers. Intricately perforated stone screens were added to allow cool breezes while ensuring privacy. Exquisite fresco paintings depicting royal processions began decorating the inner walls. Luxurious marble accents were seamlessly blended with the solid sandstone architecture. The structure evolved horizontally and vertically, linking independent palace wings. Massive wooden gates fortified with iron spikes ensured the safety of inner enclosures. Polished lime plastering gave the rising walls their signature brilliant white appearance. Deep stone eaves were engineered systematically to shield the upper rooms from intense sun. Courtyards functioned as central gathering zones, connecting different administrative wings. By the mid-17th century, the core palace structure stood proudly over Udaipur. Artisans applied a unique marble slurry to give the rising pillars a mirror-like finish. Deep stone chhatris were added sequentially to the upper levels to shield royal quarters. Structural engineers utilized massive lintels to distribute weight evenly across wide halls. As the palace rose, separate apartments were integrated cleanly into a unified compound. By the late 17th century, the primary vertical core of the palace stood complete. Crucially, the massive outer walls are not perfectly uniform, but mimic the natural cliff. Instead of flattening the ridge, architects cleverly absorbed live rock into the interior. The windows were engineered to look deceptively small outside, while maximizing inner views. Hidden chambers and false corridors were constructed secretly to protect the royal heirs. The entire palace footprint was designed intentionally to harvest every drop of rain. Work now centered on the grand signature balconies that define the palace's face. Each projecting balcony required heavy stone brackets to hang securely over the courtyards. Graceful fluted arches were meticulously carved to frame the scenic lakeside windows. Intricate jali screens were installed to filter daylight and provide cool ventilation. Builders next focused on more chauk, preparing the walls for master glass decorations. The unique rhythmic arrangement of balconies created an imposing yet graceful exterior. Master craftsmen painstakingly sculpted three-dimensional peacock reliefs into the court walls. Thousands of brilliant glass pieces were custom cut to bring the bird reliefs to life. The stunning glass mosaic captures the changing colors of a real peacock's feathers. With the mosaics and floors finalized, the square became the palace's artistic crown. On the highest point of the ridge, builders created the spectacular Badi Mahal tier. Lush green trees were planted to create a serene, floating oasis high above the city. A luxury courtyard garden was cleverly engineered directly on top of the solid stone vaults. 52 highly decorative pillars frame this grand courtyard, showcasing elite craftsmanship. Artisans spent months refining intricate relief carvings to adorn the inner royal courts. With this crowning palace garden complete, the grand structural expansion reached its peak. High above the lakeshore, final ornamental towers were crowned with elegant stone domes. Every internal thoroughfare received heavy, ornate doors to blend grandeur with high security. The exterior plaster was polished diligently to reflect the harsh desert sun away. The isolated Zenana Mahal wing was meticulously private, enclosed by thick stone screens. Intricate stained glass windows were finalized to color the incoming morning sunbeams beautifully. With structural elements stable, laborers shifted focus to polishing the expansive marble corridors. Decorative border paintings were added to frame the majestic lake views from each balcony. The towering lakefront barricades were finalized, forming a grand, unassailable royal facade. Intricate hydraulic water networks were completed to supply the rooftop pleasure gardens. Inner galleries were curated cleanly with historic art, celebrating centuries of royal lineage. The legendary Tripolia Gate received its final iron studs to protect the inner fortress. The main courtyard was finalized to accommodate royal processions and historic elephant parades. The magnificent public assembly halls stood finished, ready for the king's grand court sessions. The monumental white stone frontage was now fully complete, dominating the entire valley. Golden accents were fastened securely to the high spires, signaling structural culmination. With minor elements polished, the sprawling palace stood pristine above the vibrant city. The long construction era quietly ended as the palace transitioned into a home. The completed complex now served as a brilliant, glowing beacon of Mewar independence. Spanning centuries of dedicated work, Rajasthan's largest royal palace stood entirely realized. By uniting 22 separate palaces, generations of rulers answered the grand architectural riddle. They built a massive structural labyrinth that successfully preserved Mewar's heritage indefinitely. A single defensive fortress grew slowly over time into an elite, floating city of stone. The unique puzzle of its vertical growth remains an enduring triumph of Rajput design. This is the eternal legacy of Udaipur's city palace, a masterpiece carved directly into history. The unique puzzle of its vertical growth remains an enduring triumph of Rajput design. This is the eternal legacy of Udaipur's city palace, a masterpiece carved directly into history.